Hello everyone, it's Karawanagatimu with Coffee in the Cloud again. I'm here to share with you some adoption guidance from Microsoft Teams. Today we're going to talk about best practices for team and channel organization, including private channels. So let's hop in. Let's start out by making sure we're all on the same page about what Teams, channels, and chats actually are. So a team is a collaboration space. It's for people who work closely together, and they're usually working on a common outcome. They might be full or part-time employees of the company, but they also might be from outside. One of the great things about Microsoft Teams is it allows you to securely collaborate with people from outside your company. You do that collaboration in something called a channel. A channel is a space within the team. It inherits the full membership list from the team. So everyone who's in the team are on these standard channels. They're often named by topic or project depending upon the size of your team and what the overall outcome is for that particular team. Now we also have another option, and that is a private channel. A private channel is a focused collaboration space within the team itself, and it has a subset of members that have access to that particular channel or topical area. So you really can control who sees what now as you're working together in a team. Teams are a fantastic place to collaborate because when new team members join, they can easily find information by these topics in these channel areas. And if you invite them into, for instance, a private channel, they'll be able to see the history of the whole conversation and have access to resources very quickly. Think about that compared to having to email people reports and add them to distribution lists and do all these things that we used to do to get new people information about the projects we were working on. Now, the other way that we can communicate in Microsoft Teams is via chat. Many people are familiar with chat from their personal lives and from other applications, or even Skype for Business. Chat is for one-on-one or one-to-few private conversations. So I'm actually addressing this conversation to you. I'm individually inviting you into a chat with me, you and maybe a couple of friends. I can add more people to a chat, and then I get an opportunity to select their view of the conversation history. Chats can also be named with a specific subject, and that's a pro tip. So if you're having a chat with people and maybe you have multiple chats going on at the same time, give them a name. It makes organizing them so much easier. Now, of course, you want to remember that Microsoft Teams can be used in a variety of business scenarios: customer support, engineering, finance, human resources, marketing or sales, or just a few of the examples that are available. Really, anytime people come together for a common goal, they can work inside a team. It's important to make sure that teams have that common goal and everybody knows why they're there. That really helps with engagement and collaboration. When you're structuring your teams and channels, people usually like to see things that they're familiar with. You have to remember they're learning a new application, Microsoft Teams. Even if they've been in Teams for a while, you might be using it a little bit differently than they have in other scenarios. So think about this as you're structuring your teams and channels. Many people like to use an organizational approach to the way they structure channels, and you can certainly do that. So I'm in Teams Engineering, and I'm in a team for our engineering group. So it makes sense to me because I know who's in there. I understand what the project names mean most of the time, and I know how to interact with the people that are in my particular department. In this example, you can see you have an organization all up, and then you have the name of that team. Maybe it is that engineering department or sales. And then you're creating channels underneath that for various topic areas. To the right, you can see the Northwest Sales District. We have a general channel, which comes by default with every team. And by the way, you can't rename that. Then in this example, we've set up other channels for account plans, for help needed, and product updates. Underneath that, we have examples of things you might include in that particular channel. And this is really the secret sauce. What you pin inside your channel and what you include in terms of files and tabs, notes, and other applications, that's what brings your channels to life. So you do want to think about that so people feel comfortable and they have an understanding of what they're supposed to do and what they're are supposed to find in your channel. Now, there's many different ways to create teams and channels, and I think sometimes this is a bit of a sticking point for some of our customers. It's almost like you have too much creativity. So we wanted to give you some examples of ways that you can approach different types of teams. Here we can see we've got a product launch team. So these are very common topic areas if you're working on a product launch. You have design and documentation, engineering and go-to-market planning, production, research, strategy and timeline, support and feedback. Now, you could apply this to almost any type of product launch product, no matter what the product was. And then you probably have additional channels for specifics to your particular industry. But a word of caution, only create those channels when you really need them. You don't want too many. You don't want to fragment the work so people have to hunt through channels like you used to hunt through filing cabinets. They need to be easy to see and understand for all the people on the team. Sometimes it's a good idea to bring people together and let them jointly name them as you onboard to teams. Make it a fun exercise. Do it over lunch. On the rest of the slide, you can see other examples: a marketing group, IT collaboration services or service incidents, modern project management, and an HR group. So these are, again, just a few examples, but I think you can get the idea that every team in Microsoft Teams has a general channel, and that can be used for announcements and other information that applies to everyone across the team. The following channels that you create really do need to be topical for that particular team. And again, making sure that you don't have too many. Another way that we like to think about creating teams is by what we call the cross-organizational team. Now, this is really another secret sauce moment, and I've got several examples here for you because this is really about bringing people together from different roles across the company, or maybe even in a division or a district where people are in similar roles, but they don't always see each other. One of the advantages of Microsoft Teams is it brings together people who may be in remote locations around the common goals and the information sharing. So here again, we have the Northwest Sales District. We've got multiple channels here. The general channel, as I mentioned, the standard, account plans, forecasting, help needed, in-region marketing, and product update and feedback. Now, some of these may have come from a master template. Templates are available in Microsoft Teams, and we also have many MVPs and partners who have been creating templates to use in the product. We think that's a fantastic idea, and they can be deployed, so you just need to speak with your IT administrator about how to do that. You can also use an existing team as a template for creating others. And that's a really fast way of building a team structure so that you can then reuse it in other places within your organization. Now, you'll notice we've got something extra here in this diagram. Over on the far right in gray, we're indicating a private channel called Leadership. Now, this is a channel where only select members of the overall Northwest Sales District will be able to see the content. And you'll notice the information we have in there is for budget and recruiting. You might not want everyone in the district to see that information, and so you can keep it there in that private channel. Now, this keeps you from needing to create a separate team for those leaders. That's originally what people had to do, and many of you have. But now, instead of having a separate team, you can have a private channel and keep everyone together, which we like. Here's another example of a team for product engineering. Again, starting with general, going through feature releases, testing, customer feedback, compete information, and more go-to-market planning. But then we have that private channel for product strategy. Under product strategy, we're holding information for mergers and acquisitions and sales dashboards. Again, that's sensitive information that you might not want to share with everyone on the team. Another note is that if you have guests or external users on your team, when you create that private channel, they are not seeing that information just like any other member. So again, it's a lovely boundary to create focused conversations, but keeping them in a channel and instead of in chat, so that as people move roles within your company or change jobs, you can invite people into that private channel and then they'll have access to the information that they need without you having to dig it up for them. You'll notice some of the other types of conversations, apps, and tabs that we're suggesting in this particular team. I'll start over. Let's take a look at feature releases, for instance. We have a connector there that is tying to our backlog of feature items. We have information about our roadmap and specification documents. We're also conducting our ship room meetings in that channel. So you can see that there's a variety of information that can come together on that particular topic within the team. Another one of my favorites is event management. This is probably near and dear to my heart because I do a lot of event production, and I always have. So I have a particular way that I like to do it. So being able to have a template for this team, including tasks and different types of information that I always want to track, is extremely helpful. But with any event, I have a set of stakeholders where I'm having different conversations with them about the budget and what is our PR strategy. Are there any risks that we need to manage? Now, again, I have one team for all of this information for a particular event that I am producing. I love this because it really brings everything together. I can manage my tasks, I can manage my content, and I can even do things like create forms in this particular team to request content submissions. So bringing all those tools together across Office 365 helps me manage very complicated events with ease. Another thing I wanted to note about an organizational approach is a model like this. So if you look at the top, you'll see at the top level in your organization, depending upon your size, you may have an org-wide team. And an org-wide team automatically includes every member in your organization. And this is really helpful if you're in an organization that's less than 5,000 people. It automatically keeps information up to date, and you can have channels in there, for instance, for employee onboarding, for HR issues, for IT help, everything that a new employee would need to get comfortable and get engaged in your company. You'll also note that I have two icons up there, one for Teams and one for SharePoint, because in this scenario, you'd be using SharePoint as a hub site to drive your intranet and have that broad curated conversation and content for your employees. You can pin that directly in Teams and integrate the two together. Then underneath that, you have various teams in the models that I've been discussing, whether they are for projects, for districts or divisions, departments, or specific initiatives. But think about the way that people are finding information today. Do you already have a corporate intranet? What about that can be modernized? How can you integrate these things together so that conversations and files, notes and forms and applications are all brought together in one experience? Now that we've talked a little bit about how to organize your teams, let's talk a little bit more about private channels. So, as I mentioned, there are two types of channels in Teams right now. A standard channel for open collaboration across the team, and a private channel for focused collaboration within the team. Administrators in your organization are going to control the policies about who can create private channels in a tenant. They're probably already doing that about who can create teams as well. But team owners can also control this via a setting within the application. And there's a limit to 30 private channels per team right now. We will be increasing that likely in the future, but that is the limit today. This is in addition to the 200 standard channels that you can have in a team. Private channel owners are the ones who will add members and guests to a private channel. So making sure that you have a good member, a good owner list as you provision that private channel is important. But only existing members of the team and guests of that team can be added. So if the person's not in the team, they cannot be added to the private channel. So only members of that private channel can see the channel content, and again, it's limited to 250 members per private channel now that we've launched this feature. There are several settings that channel owners can update once they've created that private channel. They're really in charge of the life cycle. So you can also select whether or not you want members to do things like create, update, and remove tabs? Can owners delete messages? And giving members the option to delete their own messages. App mentions are you can enable, and then there's fun stuff like Giphies and level of Giphies. So private channels automatically inherit the settings from the team when they're created, but then you can come in and make updates to those settings once the private channel has been created. Team owners are in control if members can create private channels or not. And so, you want to make sure that you think about that as you're setting up the team. Sometimes it might be best to ensure that only a few people can actually make these private channels. But I'm a fan of frictionless collaboration and having it be reviewed and audited from an IT perspective. What you don't want is policy in the way of people collaborating in a safe and secure way. And you want to maximize channel conversations and file collaboration so that information isn't hidden in people's private chats. So team owners can see the names and the last activity time and the owners of all private channels in a team. So if you're an owner of that team, you are going to have visibility into the private channels that are created, and team owners can delete the team or individual private channels without being a member. So removing a member from the team also removes them from all the private channels. If you look over here on the right, you'll see a little bit of a grid about private channel information, what the team owner can see and what the team member can see. So as I mentioned, the name and description can be seen by the team owner. Members only see that if they're added. Conversations and tabs are only seen by the team owner if they're a member of the private channel, and files and content are only seen by the team owner when, again, they're added to that channel. So they are seeing the name and the description, but they're not seeing any of the content, even if they're an owner of the team. One of the great things is that you can use apps in private channels, and so tabs and connectors are supported. The apps must be installed in the team before they can be used in the channel, and hopefully you're starting to see a bit of a theme here, right? Information, the private channel is inheriting settings and information and potential members from the team itself, and then you're configuring that at that private channel level so that you're scoping it down to the people who you really want to have see that. Bots and message extensions are not supported at this time, and some Office 365 group-connected apps like Planner will be coming later as we continue our engineering efforts to connect all of the dots across the hub for teamwork. An important thing to remember is that, there's a life cycle and a workflow to working in teams and channels. So you're creating a team, you want to get started having conversations both in chat and in your channel areas. You want to share documents and content and have productive meetings. Use channel meetings, make sure that people are engaged in what's going on in your team, and that's how you're really going to get productive. So when you think about creating a team, you might want to make it just for your individual project, but maybe your project is actually a channel in another team. Do think about that before you create a team, and that will help you maximize your team's experience. Larger teams with more channels can be optimized and bring people together so you get that cross-organizational goodness. You never know who's going to be able to help you. So think about that as you're designing your teams and channels, and make sure that you are pinning tabs and other Office 365 apps into those channels using your task lists and sharing documents. You really want people to feel engaged and find actionable information in your channels. You can always use @mention as you start chatting. Make sure that you are using @mention to bring in individual people, but think before you do @mention for a channel name where you're actually putting an activity item out for everyone who might be engaged in that channel. Sometimes it's necessary, but usually you're wanting to bring or call your post to attention of an individual, maybe 2 or 3. So chatting is a fantastic way to organize your meetings and help them be more effective. So before, during, and after the meeting, you have an opportunity to use chat within that meeting experience. And it's just a great way to make sure people are ready for the meeting itself. Sharing documents and having productive meetings, these two things go hand in hand. And Microsoft Teams, of course, is leveraging the power of SharePoint and OneDrive underneath the hood. And so all of the great content management capabilities that you're used to, you will continue to get to use in Microsoft Teams. We really want you to have a productive experience and an enjoyable one as you use Teams, channels, and chats in our product. To learn more, you can always visit our Microsoft Adoption Hub at aka.ms Microsoft Adoption. You can join our Worldwide Champions program, get more information about adopting Microsoft Teams and other services across Office 365, and you can get access to our Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways training template that can be installed directly into your SharePoint implementation. If you are a fan of books like me, we have 2 new books that are out that are great training tools for people getting started with Teams. Conversational Microsoft Teams is a great handout for new users or people who are coming back to get more effective with Teams, especially about project management. And Adopt and Embrace has a Microsoft Teams text out specifically for managers with a framework to help you use Teams to get the most out of the initiatives that you're driving. We really appreciate you here at Coffee in the Cloud, and thank you so much for joining us for another episode. This is Kara Wanagatimu signing off.